There is something about 2026 that feels different for Sagittarius. Not different in the way that every new year promises fresh starts and clean slates. Different in a way that goes deeper than calendars and resolutions. Different in a way that touches the very core of who you are, and who you are in the process of becoming. The energy of this year is not asking you to reinvent yourself. It is asking you to reveal yourself. To peel back the layers of adaptation, of performance, of survival that you have wrapped around your spirit for decades, and to let the raw, unedited truth of who you are finally breathe in the open air. That process will not always be comfortable, but it will be necessary, and it will be beautiful. Here are 12 key experiences that 2026 may bring into your life, Sagittarius, each one a thread in the larger tapestry of your transformation. Experience 1. The first experience has to do with a reckoning with your own honesty. Sagittarius prides itself on being truthful, on saying what others will not, on cutting through pretense with the sharp blade of directness. But 2026 may reveal a layer of dishonesty you did not know you were carrying. Not dishonesty with others, but dishonesty with yourself. The small lies you tell yourself to keep the peace inside your own mind. The justifications you build around choices you know are not aligned with your deepest values. The stories you repeat about why things are the way they are, stories that protect you from the discomfort of acknowledging that you have the power to change them. This reckoning is not punishment. It is liberation. Because every lie you tell yourself, no matter how small, requires energy to maintain. And the cumulative weight of those lies has been pressing on your spirit in ways you may not have fully recognized until now. When you begin to strip them away, when you stand in front of the mirror of your own inner world without any filters or softening, what you find there may surprise you. Not because it is worse than you expected, but because it is better. Because the person beneath the stories is stronger, more capable, more worthy of the life they want than any narrative of limitation could ever suggest. Experience 2. The second experience involves a deepening of your relationship with someone who has been in your life for a long time, but whose presence you have not fully appreciated. This is not about romance necessarily, though it could be. It is about seeing someone clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. Seeing their flaws and their beauty with equal tenderness. Seeing the ways they have been showing up for you quietly, consistently, without fanfare or demand. Sagittarius moves fast. You chase horizons. And in that movement, the people who stay, the ones who do not chase, who do not dazzle, who simply remain, can become invisible. Not because you do not care, but because your attention is always being pulled toward the next thing. But 2026 may slow you down just enough to notice what has been standing right beside you all along. And when you do notice, when you truly see this person for who they are and what they have given you, the effect on your heart will be profound. This is the kind of deepening that does not happen through effort. It happens through awareness, through the simple act of turning your gaze from the distant and fixing it on the near. And what you find in that nearness may be the most valuable discovery of your entire year. Experience 3. The third experience touches your professional life, though not in the traditional sense of career advancement or achievement. What 2026 may bring is a fundamental shift in your relationship with work itself. You may begin to question not what you do, but why you do it. The motivations you have operated under for years, for decades even, may start to feel insufficient. Not wrong exactly, but incomplete. You may find that working for security alone no longer satisfies, that working for recognition feels increasingly hollow, that the only work that genuinely feeds your spirit is the kind that is connected to something larger than yourself, something that aligns with the values you hold most sacred. This questioning does not necessarily lead to a career change, though it might. More often, it leads to a change in the way you show up within the work you are already doing. A shift in focus, in intention, in the quality of attention you bring to each task. You begin to work not as a means to an end, but as an expression of who you are. And when work becomes expression, when it becomes a form of truth-telling rather than a transaction, everything about the experience changes. The exhaustion lifts. The resentment fades. And what replaces them is a quiet sense of purpose that makes even the most ordinary workday feel meaningful. Experience 4. The fourth experience is one of the most personal and potentially the most transformative. It involves a confrontation with a wound you thought was healed. We all carry these injuries from the past that we addressed once, declared resolved, and filed away in the part of our memory labeled done. But some wounds do not heal in a straight line. They heal in spirals, returning to the surface at deeper levels each time, asking to be met with a more mature, more compassionate version of yourself than the one who first tried to fix them. For Sagittarius, these returning wounds often involve trust. The times you gave your faith to someone or something that betrayed it. The moments when your optimism was used against you. When your openness was met with cruelty or indifference. You moved past those moments, or so you thought. But 2026 may bring them back. Not to reopen the wound, but to complete the healing. To reach the layer that your younger self could not access because the pain was too fresh, the wisdom too thin. This time you have what you need. You have the years. You have the perspective. You have the ability to hold your own pain with the same gentleness you would offer to someone you love. And that ability changes everything about how the healing happens. Experience 5. The fifth experience has to do with a creative awakening that feels less like inspiration and more like remembering. As if the thing trying to come through you is not new but ancient. Not something you are discovering, but something you are recovering. A talent, a passion, a way of expressing yourself that you abandoned somewhere along the road because it did not seem practical, because it did not fit the life you were building, because someone told you it was not serious enough to pursue. But 2026 does not care about practical, cares about true. And the creative impulse that is stirring inside you right now carries a truth that your rational mind may struggle to justify, but your spirit recognizes instantly. This is yours, it says. This has always been yours. And it is time to stop pretending it does not matter. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Experience 6. The sixth experience involves a shift in the way you handle uncertainty. Sagittarius has always had a complex relationship with the unknown. On one hand, you are drawn to it. The unexplored, the uncharted, the territory beyond the edge of the map. These things excite your spirit in ways that nothing else can. But on the other hand, there is a part of you that craves certainty, that wants to know the outcome before committing to the journey, that uses philosophy and planning as shields against the raw vulnerability of not knowing what comes next. In 2026, that shield may begin to dissolve. Not because certainty arrives, but because your relationship with uncertainty transforms. You stop experiencing the unknown as a threat and start experiencing it as an invitation. You begin to feel comfortable in the space between question and answer, between desire and manifestation, between who you are and who you are becoming. This comfort does not come from knowing more. It comes from needing to know less. From trusting that the universe is not withholding answers to punish you, but revealing them at the pace that serves your highest growth. And when a Sagittarius stops fighting uncertainty and starts dancing with it, the entire texture of life changes. Anxiety loosens its grip. Control becomes less necessary. And a kind of joy that has nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with presence begins to permeate even the most ordinary moments. Experience 7. The seventh experience is about physical renewal. Not in the dramatic sense of a complete health transformation, though that is not out of the question, but in the quieter sense of reconnecting with your body as a source of wisdom, rather than merely a vehicle for your mind. Sagittarius often lives from the neck up, inhabiting the world of ideas and ignoring the messages the body sends until they become too loud to dismiss. But 2026 may begin to change that pattern. You might feel drawn to a different kind of movement, one that is less about intensity and more about awareness. You might notice your body asking for different foods, different rhythms, different amounts of rest. And the invitation is to listen without judgment. To stop treating your body as something to be managed and start treating it as something to be partnered with. This physical renewal is connected to everything else on this list. Because the body is the ground where all growth takes root. And when the ground is tended with care, when it is nourished and respected and listened to, everything planted in it has a better chance of flourishing. Experience 8. The eighth experience has to do with legacy, though not in the monumental sense that the word usually implies. This is about the legacy of your daily choices. The way you speak to the people around you. The way you handle frustration. The way you show up on the days when showing up feels like the hardest thing in the world. In 2026, You may begin to feel the weight of those small choices more acutely, not as pressure but as awareness, the understanding that every moment is a deposit into the account of your life, and that the sum of those deposits determines the story people will tell about you long after you are gone. This awareness does not have to be heavy. In fact, for Sagittarius, it can be energizing, because your sign lives for meaning, and discovering that meaning is not hidden in grand gestures or dramatic revelations, but embedded in the fabric of your everyday life, is one of the most grounding realizations you can have. Your legacy is not something you build in the future. It is something you are building right now, in this moment, with every word you choose to speak and every action you choose to take. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Experience 9. The 9th experience involves a surprise, not the kind you can plan for or predict, because the very nature of this experience is its unexpectedness. But the energy of 2026 carries within it a disruption of some kind for Sagittarius, a moment where something you thought was settled reveals itself to be open, where a door you believed was closed swings quietly ajar. This surprise may come through a person, a conversation, an opportunity that appears from a direction you were not watching. It may be small enough to miss if you are not paying attention, which is why presence matters so much this year. The surprise is not random. It is the result of seeds you planted long ago, seeds you may have forgotten about entirely, finally breaking through the surface at the one moment when you are positioned to receive them. Sagittarius, for all your planning and philosophizing, some of the best things in your life have arrived unannounced. And this year, one more is on its way. Your only job is to stay open enough to recognize it when it appears and brave enough to follow where it leads. Experience 10. The 10th experience is about silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper than words can reach. In 2026, there may be moments where you find yourself sitting in a silence so complete, so full, that it feels like a living thing. Like the silence itself is communicating something to you, offering you information that your conscious mind cannot process but your spirit receives directly. These moments may come during meditation, during walks, during the small pauses between activities when the noise of the world briefly subsides. They are not accidental. They are portals, openings into a dimension of yourself that is always there but rarely accessed because the surface of your life is too busy, too loud, too cluttered with doing. For Sagittarius, who is always moving, always seeking, always filling the space with ideas and adventures, learning to receive the silence is a profound act of trust. Says, I do not need to generate my own meaning. I can receive it. I can be still and let it come to me. And what comes to you in those silent moments this year has the power to change everything you thought you knew about who you are and why you are here. Experience 11. The 11th experience touches the way you relate to aging itself. Sagittarius is the eternal youth of the zodiac, the sign that refuses to be defined by a number, that carries a spark in its eyes that does not dim with the passing of decades. But 2026 may invite you into a different relationship with your years. Not one of resistance or denial, but one of honor, of recognizing that the decades you have lived are not weight you carry but wisdom you embody. Every line on your face is a story. Every ache in your body is proof that you have lived fully, risked boldly, and refused to sit on the sidelines while life happened around you. This shift in perspective is not about accepting limitation. It is about recognizing a different kind of power, the power that comes from experience, the power that a young person's fire cannot replicate, the power of knowing, truly knowing what matters and what does not, because you have lived long enough to test both. Experience 12. The 12th and final experience is the one that holds all the others together. It is a return to faith. Not religious faith necessarily, though that may be part of it for some, but the fundamental bone-deep trust that your life has meaning, that the struggles were not wasted, that the joys were not accidental, that every single thing you have lived through has been preparing you for what is ahead. This faith is not naive. It is earned. It is the faith of someone who has been knocked down and gotten back up enough times to know that the getting up is not luck or stubbornness. It is something deeper, something woven into the fabric of who you are. And 2026 is the year where that faith gets tested one more time, not to break it, but to temper it into something unshakable. These 12 experiences are not a checklist, Sagittarius. They are a living, breathing landscape that 2026 is inviting you to walk through at your own pace, in your own way, with your own fire lighting the path. Some will arrive gently, some will arrive with force, some will make you laugh and some will make you weep, but all of them are carrying you somewhere that matters, somewhere real, somewhere that the deepest part of you has been pointing toward for longer than you know. Trust the journey, trust the year, and above all, trust yourself. You have everything you need to meet what is coming. You always have. You have two options after this video: close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.